Hey everybody, welcome back to Teal House Farm. We're getting ready for a big canning day. We're having some friends come over, some who have canned before and some who haven't. We're going to make some beef and vegetable soup and going to teach some people how to can. We thought we'd take you along for the adventure. If you've ever thought about canning but you were too nervous to try, this might be a really good video for you because we're just going to kind of introduce some of the steps to getting started and just have some fun and instill some confidence in some people who are a little nervous about pressure canning. So anyway, I'm getting things prepped for them so that there's less work to do when they get here because they are bringing their kids and I have my kids. There's gonna be a lot of little kids here, and so sometimes that limits the amount of time that you have before everybody falls apart. So I'm making a big pot of the broth for our soup right now. My friend Adrian, who you all have seen here before, is donating the beef for this adventure. So thank you, Adrian. We got plenty. And we need to dice up some vegetables. We need to prep our jars. And then they will be bringing some other things to add to the soup too. And we'll dice those up when we get here. And then we can just put it all together. First step of the prep was just to get our jars ready. You wash them in hot soapy water. Then they need to be kept warm, or at least warmed up before you can. The best way to do this is to wash them in the dishwasher. Keep the door closed and just take them out when you're ready. But we don't have a dishwasher. So I'm going to wash them all. And then I just put the oven on 200, heat it up, turn it off, and then put the jars in the oven with the oven off. It works kind of like an incubator. We wash our carrots and we peel them. I wash them because I want to save the peels in the freezer for the next time I need to make more broth. So Micah's peeling them for me. I'm going to dice them into bite-sized pieces. I already diced up the little celery I had in the fridge. And then we're going to put these peels into a old baggie. I think this is actually the bag left over from the celery, and I put that bag in the freezer. I decided to use some canned tomatoes because peeling tomatoes is kind of a pain. So we do 3 cans of tomatoes. We're not going to drain them. Set out some snacks for the kids, and everyone started arriving to help finish prep. So we get to dicing some onions, and we need to cut up these huge, beautiful blocks of beef into 1-inch chunks. Is this the dating show? Is that what we're doing now?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They're on YouTube.
Everybody's here, so we thought we'd say hi. So we've all met Adrian before many times. Adrian, what is if you had to rank your canning experience level, what would you say it is?
Maybe upper intermediate.
Upper intermediate, okay. And then behind me, this is Sarah. And what's your canning level?
I would say beginner.
Beginner.
I've seen it but never done it.
Okay. And Kinsey?
I'm also beginner.
Have you ever
Never done it.
seen it, never done it? Awesome. And in the back hiding is Haley.
Yep, so I would say I'm intermediate. I have done canning, but it's been a few years.
Been a few years. Awesome. Well, we're getting lots done. We're about ready to pack into jars. We've been kind of browning the meat a little bit, and then we're going to brown the onions and the celery and the juices from the meat just to help a bit with the flavor, and then into the jar and topped off with broth we go. So we're going to set up an assembly line so that we can do it pretty quickly.
We're gonna pack here, and then she's gonna talk mom.
And since we're doing the soup, I usually aim for like 2 inches of head space before we add the broth, so that there's enough broth for it to be a soup. Does that make sense?
Then do you want me to put these over there?
Yeah, you can do that. You can sit right on the table. And if we need more jars, I have lots more too. So usually what that means is you stop putting vegetables in when you get to the curve where the jar starts to get thinner. We need to fill the canner. You need 3 inches of hot water. You don't want it boiling yet, just keep it hot. We do need to pressure can since this is a low acid food. While I'm prepping the canner, the other ladies are starting to pack the jars. We're gonna need our meat on the table as well. We've browned it. I had sprinkled just a little salt and pepper and some oil in here, and we're just browning it just a very little bit. I feel like it helps with flavor and texture in the jar. You can skip this step if you want to. There's not really a safety reason to do this. We're gonna add our onions and celery to that same pot so it cooks a little bit in the beef juices, just helps with flavor. Just a minute or two, not cooking them all the way. Then we put everything on the table. Now, it really doesn't matter what order you pack these in, and you can actually throw all of your things in your broth pot, cook it like a soup and can it. You would bring it to a boil and then can before the vegetables are cooked all the way, but I find when I do that, I have a hard time getting equal amounts of meat in all the jars. So what we're doing here is we put all of our browned meat on the bottom, and then we're layering on all of our vegetables. We're gonna leave 2 to 3 inches of open space because we want plenty of room for the broth. And then we're gonna pour boiling broth on top. I find this is the way to kind of make sure all of the jars are the same so that you don't feel gypped when you open up a jar and it only has 1 piece of meat in it.
I thought 12 jars would do it, but we definitely needed more. We ended up with 16 pints and 7 quarts by the time we were done. And we still had potatoes left over, so we canned just potatoes in broth, and that'll make a great base for like a baked potato soup. We're gonna fill up with our vegetable broth. You obviously could use beef broth, but I just had veggies in the freezer, and it's a lot quicker to make vegetable broth than beef broth. And honestly, it turns into beef broth in the can anyway. I overfilled a little bit, so Adrian is going ahead and siphon off the extra broth. You want 1 inch of headspace when you're all done. And then Sarah goes ahead and debubbles the jars. I know, you're supposed to use a plastic knife. I did not have one, so we were just real careful with the metal one. We're going to wipe the rims. We add our hot lids and rings. We're going to do 1 canner of quarts and 1 canner of pints. It's going to be 90 minutes on those quarts, 75 minutes on the pints.
Maybe I can fit 8. You know, how long have I been doing this? Look at that.
Mine only fits 7.
This is my bigger one? This is my Tefal, though.
That's give me a jar.
Wait, would it fit? No. Yeah? Okay.
You want to go for it?
Well, we don't have any more meat, though.
There is, we do have 1. It's right there.
Oh,
1,
okay.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is only 6.
False alarm.
This is 6.
False alarm.
It only fits 7.
Okay.
You guys.
You know, you think when you have everybody with you, you'll count correctly, but it's like watching children. When you think everybody is watching, nobody's watching.
Why do you do? Oh, I see. You strain it and then.
Yeah, I didn't strain my broth before. It's still got the vegetables in it, so.
That's why I was like,
Making a mess is what she's doing.
After the general confusion of the fact that I couldn't count and we finally figured it out, we have our 7 quarts, 16 pints ready to go and sit in the canner. And the great part about canning with friends is not only the conversation, but there's plenty of people to help you do the dishes after. So we got things cleaned up, we depressurized, and we're good.
And we're done. We have some great looking jars. Everybody has gone home. Thank you to all the ladies who came and canned. We will cool these off for 24 hours and then we'll drop them off to everybody on our way to next time we go to town this week. But I do want to show you, because the question I get a lot is, what do we do if there is siphoning? And we have a jar here that's siphoned quite a bit. The rule is if you lost more than 50% of the liquid, it needs to be put in your fridge and used up. So this one is pretty darn close to that rule. We're just going to put it in the fridge and make it into soup or something later this week. I might actually just cut up all the vegetables and make it into baby food. That is the only jar that really siphoned, though. It's just this guy. And so that tells us, kind of gives us a clue to what the issue is. So if you get a lot of siphoning out of all of your jars, the most likely cause of that is going to be temperature fluctuations. So what you probably did was you were so excited to get to pressure, so you yanked your stove all the way to high until you got to pressure, and then you yanked it down to make sure you didn't go over pressure. And those real fast temperature fluctuations can cause siphoning. It can also be caused if you overpack your jars a lot, if they have too much liquid, you didn't leave that 1 inch headspace. But when it's just one lone jar like this is most likely just a ring tightness issue. When we were putting them in the canner, we just didn't get the ring tight enough, and so too much liquid was pushed out with the pressure. Not a big deal, it happens to everybody. Just put it in the jar, put it in the fridge, use that jar first. If you have more than 50% of the liquid left, you can safely store it on your shelf. Just know anything above the liquid line will start to lose its color and look less appetizing, but it's still safe to eat. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you to all the ladies who came. My kids are all worn out and now overstimulated for the day. They had so much fun with all their friends. So we will call it a day and we will see you next time.